Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katerina Adam, and on behalf of the organizing committee of the distance learning workshop, What is the New Normal in Distance Learning in European Universities, I would like to welcome you all. This workshop was organized by the University Alliance, Linking Society and Technology for Sustainable Futures. In order to enhance the participation of the attendees of this workshop, till last night we had almost 700 people registered in the event. The workshop is organized in the following manner. After this plenary introductory session, we are going to have 3 parallel panel discussions where representatives from all universities of the Alliance, academics, students, and IT experts are going to discuss on the opportunities and the challenges of distance learning in our days. The main conclusions of this discussion will be presented in the summary and conclusions by the moderators of each panel discussion. During the whole of this workshop, participants will have the opportunity to present their questions and answer to pollings that are going to be available during, as I said, the whole duration of the event. The event is going to be broadcasted online in the website of the workshop, as well as the YouTube channel of the National Technical University of Athens. For the participants who might be interested to receive a certificate of attendance, please identify so in the website of the workshop, and you're going to be issued a certificate following the completion of the event. And again, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank you all for being with us today. And I would like to invite Professor Andreas Muduvis, Director of the National Technical University of Athens, to open the workshop. Professor Muduvis, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Katerina. Dear colleagues, teachers, students, university administrators from all over Europe, to my capacity as the rector of the National Technical University of Athens, I welcome you all to the European Workshop on Distance Learning. On behalf of the NTUA people who are involved in the organization of the workshop, I express our pleasure and honor to be the hosts of today's event. The workshop is organized by a European University Alliance established to serve the purpose of linking society and technology to shape sustainable future. Professor Christina von Haaren, Vice President for International Affairs and Sustainability from Leibniz University in Hannover, will introduce our alliance. What is the new normal in distance learning in European universities? Before we address this question, we need to understand and actually assess in qualitative and quantitative terms our experience still ongoing with distance learning imposed by the pandemic. I taught undergraduate class in fluid mechanics in the School of Chemical Engineering of NTUA for 2 semesters, one in the spring of last year and another this year. And in a few days, actually, I'm going to give an exam to a class of more than 200 students. It will be a mixed exam. More students will take the exam in person and some from a distance. I have not seen my students for 2 consecutive years. I did not have the chance to interact with them with physical discussion through body language, eye contact, and spontaneous reactions and automatic adaptation to circumstances and happenings. That is the traditional normal in usual classroom teaching and laboratory training. I will not be able actually to recognize most of them when passing by in the building's corridors or the various campus places when the anti-pandemic measures are over. My colleagues, the teaching personnel in NTUA, as in many other places all over the world, rolled up their sleeves from day one and started Zooming, Teaming, Webexing. And so did the students from the other end of the line. And they did that with a lot of patience, determination, and great sense of responsibility. It was like we were all prepared to deal with an adverse and extremely demanding situation of the kind of the pandemic. And we did all these things while taking care of our own health and the health of our families and loved ones and those close to us, keeping social distance, dealing with lockdowns, and obeying reduced mobility rules. Although education went digital, that was an one-way choice, there could not be but very limited virtual substitution of certain activities, such as hands-on laboratory training an engineering student has to go through. What are the consequences and limits of going digital? As far as mainly students as well as teachers, strength limits, psychological and otherwise, are concerned. How about learning outcomes, examinations integrity, implications on European student and staff mobility? One thing is for sure, that we feel that we have reached a point of saturation, even exhaustion. The pros and cons of distance learning will be the basis in shaping the new normality. Here are what some NTUA students had to say about some pros of remote education. I save at least 2 hours of travel and have more time to read. Great viewing comfort. The blackboard looks perfect and does not depend on our seat in the auditorium. Those of us who have used to live away from our families now live with them, saving effort and money. We are not late for class. We wake up later than before, a few minutes before the lesson starts, comfortable and relaxed, and do not experience any travel delays. And a last comment from the students. We do not miss lectures. Sometimes when we are pressed for time to complete a task, we may choose not to attend a virtual lecture, but we can return to it in an asynchronous way. What will be the mixture of digital and physical, remote versus in-person, as we progress with the anti-COVID measures, locally and globally? As I understand, the majority of the US universities are planning to go hybrid next fall with a stronger preference towards in-person teaching. That most likely will be the prevailing choice in Europe. In this virtual workshop, academic educators and university students from the 9 universities of our alliance will discuss distance learning as a new learning modality for social, technical, and pedagogical perspectives. Our keynote speaker, Professor Pedro Luis Martinez, Vice Rector for Strategy and Digital University of Murcia in Spain, will address key issues of remote education in our era. Success stories and lessons learned in the COVID era will be started and discussing and shared within panel discussions to identify advantages and opportunities for universities and work towards sustainable solutions for the European higher education area. Before closing, my thanks to the NTUA team for the hard work regarding the preparation of this meeting, and in particular, the chair, Professor Katerina Adam, Professor Ioanna Rousaki, Antonia Labropoulou, Katerina Makrinou, and our virtual floor manager, Yannis Dzikounakis, and our technical team, who will be under alert in the front and backstage for the duration of the event. And I also thank the rectors and the presidents of the Alliance for supporting our proposal to run this workshop, the study and education working group members, the moderator, the panelists, and the attendees. Let's go for a fruitful and vivid virtual conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Andreas Muduvis. I would like now to invite Professor Christina von Haaren, Vice President of International Affairs and Sustainability of the Leibniz University of Hannover, to present to us the University Alliance, Shape Linking Society and Technology for Sustainable Futures. Professor Haaren, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Should I share my slides or will you do that?
You can do whatever is easier for you.
Okay, then I try. Sorry, they don't show up, though I have to...
Okay, Christina, we'll take care. We'll take care.
Strange. Okay, then I will stop here. Okay, thank you, Katharina. Thank you, Andreas, for this introduction. And thank you. I would like to join into the thanks which Andreas just gave to the team who organized this, because the European University, the alliance which we are forming right now, is living of such initiatives and such great devotion which we experienced over the last weeks, especially from the NTUA team. And without this initiative, I think this wouldn't have happened today, though the subject which you choose is, I think, extremely pressing and also present in all our universities, and all of us are talking about this. And so this is an excellent example, I think, for the possibilities and the potential which the European University is unleashing, I would say, which is present in all our universities. And let me also link to what Andreas just said, the description of what happened in the NTUA, in the TU Athens, is exactly what we could transfer to Hanover, what we experienced here, and I'm sure also the other universities and members and participants here can join in, because that is something we now have to master in each university, but also we can better master that together. And it also opens a lot of potential for joint teaching. The University Alliance, which we formed, consists of 9 universities, and it's a very interesting and very a mixture with a lot of potential, consisting of universities with a focus on technical affairs, and of universities which are kind of mixed, like Hannover University, but also of universities which have a more social science and humanities focus. So these 9 universities have united in the mission to link, as a subject, to link society and technology and advances in society and technology, and to create a more sustainable future. The European University Linking Science and Technology, with the acronym ULIS we use, is of course inspired by the European Universities Program. We started writing a proposal to submit to the EU. Now this has been postponed, but nevertheless, you can see that all the universities we brought together here, they are very devoted and said, okay, let's do this nevertheless, because there is an added value, a benefit for all of us in this endeavor, in this activity. Next slide, please. So something which also has been mentioned by Andreas is that universities are in the regions or in the societies in which we are embedded are something special. I was also very impressed to see how this intrinsic motivations of the university members enabled us to switch from one day to another almost to distance learning last year. And now we have a lot of experience, but at that time we did not. And this, nevertheless, this happened almost in the blink of an eye, and everybody, the students, the teachers, administration, work together in a very engaged way. And this is something which is, I think, indeed something which is special and a potential which we can draw on, and which, when we bring this together in an alliance of several universities, we enlarge our potential in many ways. And this wonderful conference here about this very timely subject is one example, I think, for what joining strength can result in, so that we can work with shared labor. One party does this, the other that, and nevertheless, we can offer our students a great educational program, which is not only fed by our own university, but we join our strength and our excellency. We said our central theme will be to work in the field how society and technology interact sustainably under the premise of the SDGs, the development goals for the world, sustainable development goals for the world. And we will start with a kind of selection, but nevertheless, we are following, every university can follow the what they choose, but nevertheless, we found that we have a kind of overlap, especially in quality education. And this first event here is an example for that, in clean renewable energies, in industry innovation, and in sustainable cities and communities. Next slide, please. Our objectives are to join the strategies and for teaching, research, and outreach. And a core objective of all of us is innovative teaching formats, innovating learning formats. And we want to offer our students a seamless mobility between the partner universities. And this will grow step by step. we are happy that we will have some time, but we also have a great advantage now because we have the experiences of the pandemic time, and we will see what will come out of that, the mixing physical and digital mobility in a hybrid and very clever way. Then another goal of the network is that we want to create an inter-university green campus, joining our best practice examples from the different universities, developing the campuses everywhere in the alliance, and also maybe showing to the regions, showing to the society what a university can achieve in this respect. And finally, of course, we want to be drivers into the regions in which we are embedded with our single universities, but also as a network, and work there as a driver of development, but also supporting networking of science society in the regions and with societal institutions. So that is our vision, and this conference here is a very good start, I think. We have several projects which we try to realize right now, but I'm very happy that we start here with this really great teaching initiative, and I'm really grateful to TU Athens that they started this initiative and also organized it so excellently, and I must say in a very short time. Thank you. So also joining also different organizing cultures, I think brings, I wouldn't know whether the Germans would have been so fast. So joining the different organizing cultures is already, I think, an added value which we can harvest right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Haren. Thank you very much indeed. With this opportunity, we would like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Martinez, Vice Rector for Strategy and Digital University from the University of Murcia, to give us his keynote speech, A Strategic View on the Future of Higher Education Online Teaching. Professor Martinez, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure being here, sharing with you views and probably generating more questions than answers on this very interesting topic idea that you have selected. I think it's a very good opportunity for a great consortium to reflect and think about what's the future of online learning in the European arena. In this regard, I've been reflecting on several stages, which is what happened with COVID-19 to what we were already doing. And then we'll have a little view on what could be the possible futures on how online teaching and learning can evolve in our European arena. The reality is that, I mean, universities were already facing digital transformation before COVID-19. And for most of us, we were all thinking on new ways to make the most of technology in order to increase the competitiveness of our institutions. And the reality is that technology opens up a lot of new opportunities, especially in whatever is related to teaching and learning. However, there are a lot of different challenges that higher education is going to have to face in this decade. And in fact, many of those challenges already remain, not only before COVID, but also in post-COVID. And in that sense, we were already working and thinking on how to adapt our institutions and our business models to this new reality that was about to come. things like personalized learning, like long life learning, digital credentials, or even data or learning analytics were already here before the pandemic. But the reality is that when the pandemic suddenly appears, of course, it creates a strong disruption. And then we need to move faster than we were moving. We were taking this like some possible future. And then we realized that it's not a possible future. It's a reality which is already here. And I think in higher education institutions, we will have like 3 different phases on how we will approach learning and teaching. The first phase was basically learning continuity, trying to continue our teaching and learning activities with the help of technology and in an emergency situation. Phase 2, to me, is basically when what did happen after the first severe disruption, when we enter into the preparation of the current course, 2020, 2021. Most of universities, we were trying to introduce some novelties, improve our tools, and basically incorporate the lessons learned during the first phase. And finally, there is the phase 3, which I think is still about to come, which is what's going to be this new normal, and what will be the future that we will have to face, and how can we evolve all the effort we've been doing into making our institutions prepare for such future. In that sense, in phase 1, I think more or less all universities have suffered the same situation, and we've been doing a lot of effort to move our classes online, or LMS is, I mean, the virtual campuses has experienced a very huge increase in use. We've been basically relying on video conferencing to basically continue doing synchronous instruction. This actually allowed us to like really have a fast reaction to the pandemic. But we all recognize that probably that was not the best model, and we were more in doing some kind of emergency response teaching than really an online learning. So for the second phase, I think, again, the most heard keyword, or I would say now even buzzword, is hybrid learning. And I think, most universities, we've been working on improving our basic technological tools. We've been introducing multimedia into all of our lecture rooms. We've been offering our teachers or faculty a whole new bunch of utilities they can use to enhance the experience of their teaching and learning, increasing interactivity, and of course, we've been also basically help them improve their capabilities and make them digital enabled, so that they can adapt their activities and to the new possibilities that they could be using in this course. And this is how I think we have been transitioned through these 2 main phases. Now I would like to ask you to follow this link and let's do a small poll about what's your initial feeling about the preparedness of your institution for online learning and teaching in the years to come. So if you follow this link, you will be able to enter into this online poll, and I will ask you, I will wait a minute so that you can introduce your answers, and then I will comment a little bit on this first perception on how prepared we feel we are for online learning. Okay, some answers are already getting in. Okay, there's still a lot of people answering, so I will wait a little bit more. Okay, last 30 seconds. Okay, time to show the results. So let me, sorry. So at the moment, I'm sorry, I had to change my screen so that you can see the results. Okay, so sorry, I have a problem with permissions, so I will directly tell you the results. Okay. So at the moment, the results are as follows. 10% of participants think that their institution is very well prepared and no further investments are needed. 54% feel that they are very well prepared, but they still need to improve the capabilities of their faculty. This is the most voted option. Then at 22%, which is the second option, feels that the faculty is very well prepared, but they are lacking like technical capabilities. They need more tools. And 15% thinks that they lack important capabilities, both technologically and from of faculty. None of the respondents feel that they are not prepared at all to offer online learning. I think that's more or less like what I would expect to be a natural result, in the sense that we have done a lot of effort to improve our capabilities during this more than 1 year. And in reality, I think we have done a very good effort and we have improved quite a lot. The thing is, if the offer we are already doing is good enough to be competitive in the future. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the future later on, so that we can think if probably we still keep our opinion or we change it. But the thing is that many people has confused this remote emergency teaching with online learning, and they are basically not the same. So in some cases, even though experience may not be the best, that doesn't mean that online must be worse than on premises or vice versa. I mean, they are just orthogonal questions. So in that sense, what is important is to know where we are in terms of maturity for online learning, and having and establishing an strategic approach to improving our position. So in that regard, for instance, this is the case for University of Murcia. Our main goal is not to be or to become a fully online university, but we have improved a little bit during the pandemic in some of the different areas of online learning maturity. But we can see here that we are still not quite mature in some others. So for instance, in our case, I wouldn't say that we are very well prepared, or that we have no investments to be done. I think probably we still need to do something better. And in particular, it's important that the senior leadership of the institution work in preparing an online learning strategy. That's very, very important, because that avoids what is called usually in the States this Dean's Gone Wild, which is that each of the different faculties start going online in a different way without comparable tools, etc. So it's like no organization into online education. So in that sense, that's very important. And in particular, what is very important when defining such strategy is to consider the different aspects related with online learning. Of course, we have to have a clear view on where we want to go. That's our strategic goals. But we need to match those strategic goals with our technical agility. I mean, with our ability for our tools to adapt to the requirements of future online. And we have to clearly see if we have enough funding and enough resources to create a competitive technology package that can help people. And then that's the third aspect, people agility. I mean, is our faculty prepared? Are we able to prepare them to these new models of education? That's going to be definitely one of the another possible limiting factor on our online learning ambition as an institution. And of course, we need to measure if we are really matching or achieving our goals, and if our offers actually are competitive to what a student may find in the market. And I mean, these terms are not quite used in universities, like market business proposition and things like that. But the reality is that many people think that we are now under disruption. And basically, one of the things that's going to happen is productification of online learning. So we have to think on products, on things that get better and better over time, and matches the what our users, basically students, expect. So we have to make ourselves the key questions. And it's important to find the right balance between providing a very good, solid online experience for all of our teachers in an easy way, so that they do not need to do a lot of effort. And this is what we call working on foundation. And probably 80% of our funding should be focused on this foundation, on our LMS, and creating easy but very good templates for our professors to move their courses online, etc. And at the same time, allowing those staff who wants to go further, who wants to innovate in their teaching and learning, to also be able to experiment and evolve. And the idea is basically creating this continuous cycle of increased improvement. So when we think about phase 3, the probably most referred word I've found in the literature is uncertainty. Nobody is clear on what's going to be the future, especially in the long term. And in this case, I mean, we were already thinking, at least the people who work on strategy, like in my case, on what is to pose or what our university wanted to be in 2030, for instance. And the possible scenarios depends very much on what's going to happen with the validity or importance of formal credentials versus micro credentials and informal ones, and also how technology, in particular artificial intelligence, is going to be disrupting more or less our institutions. And that creates like this quadrant in which you might find that it's better to be positioned, and you can then know exactly what to plan for. But the problem is that we have faced a disruption within a disruption. I mean, COVID-19 has come over in the middle of this disruption. So what are those scenarios? It's not so clear anymore, because in particular, we need to guarantee that whatever investments we do for this new normal, like 2022, 2023, actually do pay off in our overall strategy towards 2030. So here comes another question for you, which is, what is your vision about how it's going to be this new normal compared with pre-COVID in terms of what's going to be or what's going to happen with online activities versus face-to-face in-class activities? And again, we will wait for 1 minute or so for you to answer. Okay, we have a lot of input at the moment, so I will wait just 30 more seconds for those of you who haven't answered yet. But at the moment, we have a very large participation in the poll. Okay, here we go. So at the moment, the winning option is those of you who think that online activities will grow and face-to-face classes will be reinvented for greater value. This at the moment has like 57% of the votes. And the second option, it's online learning activities will grow and face-to-face classes will reduce. The other two activities, like online activities exponentially growing and face-to-face classes almost disappearing, only has a 4% people thinking that's going to be the future scenario, and that both online learning and face-to-face classes will go back exactly to where it was in pre-COVID values, have a 14% of support. So I think that represents pretty much what is also the feeling, I think, in my university at the moment. I think there are still some people who think that things may probably go back to where it were, but most of us think that actually things has changed and they're not going to be back to where it was exactly, or teaching and learning, and things are going to change. And those are basically the two possible options people are thinking: increase online learning with reduction in face-to-face. And most people, I think, at the moment, also at my university, thinks that face-to-face classes is going to still be there and they are going to be reinvented. And this is probably the same opinion I personally have. I think that presentiality is a very interesting asset that many universities, at least face-to-face universities, have. And we shouldn't actually just get rid of that. That's an important aspect that can help improve our value proposition. But of course, presentiality has to provide something valuable. I mean, why do I make the effort to get up early and basically go there to the classroom if what you are giving me is basically something I can see on a video anytime, anywhere? So I expect something else. I think our students is going to expect something else. So what I've seen, at least in our institute, in University of Murcia, is that teachers have done, I mean, faculty has done a very tremendous effort in using all the new tools and putting forward this hybrid model. And we've seen that 22% of our teaching staff is basically moved to fully online. The other 78 be basically using hybrid learning from the classroom. And we've seen that things are changing. If we compare what it would be from the middle of the graph to the left, which is basically previous year, fast response, with phase 2, which is from the middle of the graph to the right. We can see, for instance, that professors are adopting very good practices. They are moving online, but they have created online content, enriched content, interactive content. And this is something that was basically never used or rarely used by your teachers before. And now they had the options to go back to hybrid and forget about this additional effort, but they are doing it because they find it useful and relevant. And the same happens with continuous assessment. We have seen an increase in the way in which our students have been assessed. And we are using continuous assessment more than ever. And even with the exam tools, even though we are now doing our exams in a face-to-face manner, this year alone, we have been having still a very huge use of this remote examination tool, but basically in order to do this formative assessment, I mean, continually giving feedback to the students on how they are progressing. And that's very important. These are like very good practices that our people are doing. So this is why I'm very convinced, at least that's my opinion, that we're not going to be back to the baseline after the new normal, but we're probably reinventing what's going to be our model, in the sense that we will move more activities to online, especially those that have more value when they are delivered online, like content, like mini videos, etc. But we will also reinvent, and this is the green line, the face-to-face class. And we will be aiming at much better experiences and taking face-to-face classes together with our students to improve their learning. So in that regard, how it's going to be, and this is the last part of the talk, how it's going to be online teaching and learning in the future. So basically, we can take some decisions ourselves, but we must accept that there are some important driving forces and global trends that's going to influence a lot of on higher education institutions, and probably we won't be able to make all the free or decide ourselves the model of the new normal. Probably that's going to be imposed by this reality. So it's clear that higher education was already being disrupted before, and the COVID-19 has basically accelerated quite a lot our requirement on dealing with those things that were already being pointed out by students, by faculty, and that the tools and technology can help a lot to improve the value proposition of universities. But there are things that are not going to change after the pandemic. For instance, there's going to be a very high impact of technology in the labor market, and that will basically increase the demands of reskilling and upskilling of professionals. In fact, some studies say that for 2030 and 2040, there will be more relearners and reskillers than first course students or students doing their first studies. And this is something congruent about in different studies. And we expect an exponential growth in demand. So if this demand in reskilling and upskilling is going to be tackled by universities, of course, we need to move online, because this kind of learners, of course, have very specific needs that can be basically matched in face-to-face learning. again, the current model does not scale in terms of cost and quality. If the demand increases, what's going to happen is that our cost is also going to grow, and probably our quality is going to go down with the current model. So we're going to be forced to change our model. And changing our model, it's going to be basically trying to give answers to this unsatisfied demand. And that means basically converting our current model into a golden triangle in which we can scale, increase the number of students because there's going to be huge demand, but not compromising cost and quality. And this can only be done with technology. And technology is going to be basically our main asset. And we will already seen important advances in technology in things like digital credentials, adaptive learning platforms, artificial intelligence, etc. That's going to be a changing asset in the future of education. And some institutions are already working on that. For instance, University of Central Florida already has made a very big effort in transitioning from analog to digital. And they've managed basically to triple the number of students and basically lowering the cost so that more students from minority groups are getting into university, and at the same time being able to maintain a very nice quality instruction, even though it's online. And in that sense, they managed to change the model and to convert this triangle into a golden one. In particular, it's been really very relevant of what they're doing, which is increasing these online and mixed models by 47%. And currently, 47% of their student credit hours are already designed in digital first. And key for that is basically this circle, this virtual circle I was mentioning before. The idea of having a center which helping the whole institution in this transition. It's like the digital transformation of the learning, in which they develop our faculty, they help with the design of courses, they help with the production, and at the end, you manage to reinvent and recreate and continually improve the quality of your online learning. So this means that if universities have something to do, and universities have the power to embrace online learning. However, the future is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because, of course, the trends are still continuing in the universities are not particularly good at changing fast, and in some situations, digital transformation in the higher institutions, in the higher education at the moment, is the second sector in which most acceleration is being produced only after bank. So in that sense, we need to be realized that the future of this online learning is going to be, point number one, enabled by technology. Technology is going to be the only way we will have to be in this golden triangle. And this is basically admitted, and this is basically the main conclusion of many reports on trends. And we see basically the same technologies like artificial intelligence, learning analytics, micro-credentials, open educational resources. So definitely technology is something we have to embrace if we want to be successful in online learning. The second aspect to consider is there's going to be an increased competition, because basically when you move online, students can study anywhere, any place. So competition is global, it's no longer local. So if your value proposition is not good enough, then you might suffer. and not be competitive and successful in online learning. And of course, at the moment, there is this Saudi education sector in which we see many companies entering into this higher education because they have seen clearly from my previous graphs that there's a huge demand, and there's going to be this huge demand for reskilling and skilling. So if universities want to be key players in that arena, then we will need to compete with these other new guys in the block. And of course, that means that things that at the moment we do not pay much attention so far, like marketing and data analytics, is going to be very, very relevant. For instance, Southern New Hampshire University, which is the second in the United States with more online students, invests yearly 139 million in marketing in order to be competitive with some of these other MOOC offers like Coursera, Udemy, etc. I don't know your institutions, but for sure in the University of Murcia, we cannot spend such amount of money for marketing because basically we will have to stop even getting electricity. So in that sense, that's a huge change. You want to be competitive there, you will have to be prepared for what's coming. And this coming is also huge disruption in the sense that this remembers me to the 21st century when we have these companies in entertainment sector that they were living very happy and they were looking at Amazon, Netflix, YouTube, and things that they were not worried at all. I remember there was this guy from the music industry that said, MP3, who's going to listen to that crap? The reality is that all those leader contenders has completely changed the way in which entertainment markets has evolved. And we have seen basically the same behaviors now in academy. And we're looking at Khan Academy, Kaggle, EDX, and we think, well, these are not really substitutes of the real thing, of course. We cannot imagine our employers hiring someone who doesn't have one of our respective degrees. Things might happen, definitely, and disruption happens very fast. So factor number 3, student experience. We have seen with the pandemic, in the first 2 weeks, students were very happy because we were continuing our education very fast. For the next year, they wanted more because that was just an emergency response. That's going to be, I mean, student expectations can only grow. So
Pedro, yes. Excuse me, allow me, because we are running out of time.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you because really all your ideas, but I would like to ask you to wrap up if we want to be able to answer some of the questions posed by the audience, in addition to the pollings you have conducted already. So if you could please wrap up.
Definitely. Thank you very much for advising me. I completely forgot about time.
Yes, I was sending you messages.
So that's going to be basically this idea of we are going to be adaptive learning. People learn at different rates, and institutions need to be adaptive as well if we want to be competitive. And finally, there's going to be a huge demand for flexible pathways accredited by micro-credentials. Just to mention that in Europe, we are in a very good position, and alliances like yours has a very good opportunity in using Europass and EPSI as a basic infrastructure to allow recognition between institutions. So basically, summing it up, we're basically in a point of extreme disruption, and we're also in a pivotal point for higher education. This decade is going to be like an inflection point for higher education, that it can create a very extreme gap between institutions that really approach online learning strategically and plan ahead and those who don't. So it's important now, especially with assistance funds from the European Union, to make a very strategic investment of all those funds so that we can continue being competitive in the near future. And this is all from my side. Sorry for spending my time. And of course, I'm glad to receive any question from your side.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Really, thank you very much, because this was an exciting presentation. And from what you presented, I kept three numbers. But 4% believes that the physical courses are going to be extinguished, but 14% believe that we are going to return back to normal. And most of the people really believe that it's going to be a hybrid type of education where technology needs to assist. Thank you very much, really. There is a number of questions that from the audience that I would like to give, and one of them can be answered. One of them is directed to you. It says, Agnieszka says, very inspiring speech. So many open lines are ahead of us. In general sense, in your opinion, what are the most important competencies a teacher must develop? Open-mindedness, technology skills, cultural sensitivity. This is a question that can be answered by Pedro, but by all the panelists of the plenary session, of course, as well. So we have 6 minutes to answer questions, including the break. So please.
Okay, I will be fast, just to leave some time for others in case they want to answer. So, of course, we have to be technologically enabled. That's clear, because technology is going to play an important role. But technology is not going to be the most important part. Most important part is about methodology and how to engage students and how to make the most of the teaching time.
Okay, Professor Muduvis, would you like to add something to that, or Professor Mcharen?
No, I think that the essence of the theme was completely covered by Pedro, but there are some other associated questions, and I have provided some responses during the Pedro's talk. I don't know if you have any priority in presenting the questions, Katerina?
No, I'll just stick to the unanswered questions, because really we have run out of time, and in 5 minutes we have to move to the panel. So I'll go to the second question that remains unanswered. I think that it will be interesting to see what the long-term impact will be. How much will virtual exchange and remote work be used? Will blended learning not only be a remedy in times of social distancing, by a means for more flexible and better quality learning? How will the experience of the crisis shape joint research and enhance open access? Actually, it's a question with 3 legs, so I will repeat it. How much will virtual exchange and remote work be used? Will blended learning not only be a remedy in times of social distancing, but a means for more flexible and better quality learning? How will the experience of the crisis shape joint research and enhance open access?
May I comment on 2 and 3, just very briefly? Well, the answer is provided within the question. It will be a means for more flexible and better quality learning, that's for sure. And regarding number 3, the crisis effect on joint research and enhanced open access, certainly yes. I think we have already seen some very strong signals that this is the direction that we're moving.
Okay. I don't know if Pedro or Cristina would like to add something to this question.
From my side, I totally agree with Professor Andreas. And for the first question on how much will virtual exchanges and remote work be used, actually that's a very tough question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that, but I think definitely my vision is that we are gonna try to make the best of presentiality at all times, and for everything else we can do successfully without physical presence, probably we will prefer the anytime, anywhere paradigm, as we have seen in things like Netflix and things like that.
Actually, there are two questions that are very interesting, and I believe that it's worth presenting them. Is it really possible to do any hands-on laboratory activities via the distance learning way? It's one question. And the second is, yes, technology is important, but how can distance learning be used efficiently in the case of artistic teaching, for example, in teaching dance in higher education? So anybody from the panelists that would like to answer to these questions, the one refers to laboratory activity, hands-on laboratory activities, and the
virtual reality, augmented reality is the way to go. Of course, there are other prerequisites for that. Regarding the last question about dancing, I have seen many people doing Pilates over the internet for the last 6 months.
I think Christina wanted to add something on that. Am I right in saying so?
Yes, I think that like a pilot is also learning some skills on a kind of virtual steering board. Also laboratory things can be done partly or will be done partly also on a digital basis, but not completely. I think I'm really convinced that we need both. We need the physical presence in the classroom and the physical interaction somehow of the bodies or whatever, and we need the digital on a kind of virtual preparation. I think preparation also laboratory things, physical encounter is a very important
will
thing.
be
And
done partly
I experience
also on a digital basis, but not
online
completely.
dancing course.
I think
I'm
is
really
something else.
that we need both,
but it's also very valuable.
In the classroom. And
I had an online dancing course over this last year,
and I learned things which I wouldn't have learned. We need the digital, the kind of virtual. So I think preparation there. I think preparation also laboratory things, physical,
and the mixture will be different. Will be different.
Partly. I experience
also on a digital basis. Types of
online
dancing course.
I think
is something else.
But it's also very valuable
for all
in the classroom. I
had an online dancing course over this last year.
But I really have
and I learned things which I wouldn't have learned, and we need the digital, the kind of virtual. So I think preparation there, also laboratory things, physical,
and the mixture will be different. Will be different.
I experience on a digital basis, online dancing course.
I think is something else,
but it's also very valuable in the class.
I had in the panel discussion starting as we speak. So let's continue.
Thank you, Katharina, and thank you also, Pedro. This was a very strategic, very good talk, I think. I learned a lot. Thank you.
All of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you all. Thank you.
So, hello, I hope you can hear me properly. My name is Rakute and I'm the moderator of the third panel. I've tried to reach out to the hosts if we may start the panel now, or we are allowed to take maybe 1-2 minutes of break. So please answer me via chat if it's possible. So if not, yes, that's it. It was planned to have a break in between after these very interesting and very intense speeches at the beginning. But I see all the panelists here are available, and I hope, yeah, then I think we just start if I get no answer back. Yeah, okay. I think we can start. We take it into our own hands. So I would like to welcome all the attendees as well, and the panelists. We have here today 6 panelists from different universities of this alliance, and my name is Rakute, as I have said before. Basically, I'm head of the Digital Teaching and Learning Service Unit at my university. It's from Austria, TU Wien, so the Technical University in Vienna, and the department where I'm belonging is the Strategic Education Development Center. And basically, as we also have heard in the introduction, it is a really intense and interesting times that we have behind us. 1 year of this pandemic that we had to shift from basically presence university in many cases to a fully virtual environment, and that within weeks, and it was challenging. And today we have here 6 panelists, 3 of the student view, 2 from the academic staff, and 1 IT expert or from the administrative part. And just to inform you, we have a question and answer panel here as well. So please use it, please raise questions, and it is also possible to upvote questions if you like. For example, what others have asked, please do so. And we will have plenty of time at the end of the session to answer them. And if you have direct questions to the panelists, feel free to write the name, for example, in brackets into the question, and then we can address them directly. So, but this is enough about me and the introduction. We are interested in the panelists, and I don't see Oana. She has not activated her cam yet. So I would jump to the second panelist, Zibek Krivka. He is assistant professor at the Faculty of Information Technology, the Department of Information Systems, and he's from the Czech Republic, from Brno University of Technology. So Zbigniew, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Am I supposed to start with the opportunities, and then there will be second round with the challenges, or should I
do both? 3 minutes of the plus and 3 minutes of the
okay.
Points. Yeah.
So as most of us, I experienced 3 semesters of online teaching, and I made few highlights, and I will start with the opportunities, or with the, let's say, positive highlights I experienced during my teaching. In fact, I was teaching 2 Erasmus courses and 3 courses for Czech students during that time. And the first thing I would say is that I enjoyed that there could be a wider audience. So not only enrolled students could listen to my lectures, but in fact I had also few students that are not only enrolled in the course, but they were not from the university. So I like that very much. Let's say similar experience was, for example, from habilitation lectures or PhD defenses, where also the guests from abroad were able to listen the defenses, also to react to the defenses, not only when they are from official committee. So that was nice, because of course the traveling was not necessary in that case. So that's obvious opportunity from the online teaching, or from the online communication in general. For me personally, for example, because a lot of lectures are video recorded on our faculty and now almost everywhere. So if it was possible for me to have access to lectures also from courses that are not my field of study, or my field of research, but I was interested somehow in them, and I could hear the lectures or talks even if I had no time during the lecture, so I could see them later on. So that was like the student view of this online teaching, or of this online experience. Then from when we leave the experience with the lectures, I liked that also the consultation, one-to-one consultation with students, when they can be done online, they started to be like the standard to do them online. So I like the time flexibility, and so it was possible to have a short chat during the evenings when both of us had time. So that was nice. And the last thing, for example, this semester, I was a co-supervisor to a diploma thesis with some guy from a company, and it was very nice that thanks to the online briefings, it was quite easy to be all three of us, student, me, and the company guy, at once, and we can discuss the semi results of the student, which was not usual when we did it always just face to face, because it was quite harder to manage it. Okay, from the challenges, of course, it was also mentioned in the keynote speech. The motivation for interaction was very hard. Of course, if you are lecturing for more than 100 students, always there are a few questions in the chat or something like that. But especially when I was teaching the Erasmus students, where there was only a few of them usually, so it was quite challenging to communicate with them, to force them to interact somehow, yeah, at least to get the idea of what their knowledge in the beginning and so on, because of course from Erasmus students the curricula is not a common one as for our students from my university, so it's much harder to know. It's much more vital to know to get know the students. So that was a challenge for me. Also, there were some technical challenges, but I think we can discuss them later on. And the next challenge was how to examine the students during the online courses, of course, because especially we deal with cheating, because we are technical universities, so students are taught to hack things and to invent things to make them easier. So I'm quite sure that they will try also to make easier the examination period. So that was a challenging thing, and that is technologically the hardest thing. And we were glad that we were somehow able to do the examination in person in the end, although it was much more time demanding. Okay, that is all from me. I hope I was mostly on time.
Perfect. It was perfect timing. Thank you very much. I have 1 minute sign, so if somebody is then maybe close to the end of time, then I have prepared something. But it was perfect. Thank you very much, Shebek. And I see Joanna is here, so we can move back to you. So again, we have the second view now from the professor's view. So she's assistant professor Joanna Rosaki. The second panelist, she is from School of Electronical and Computer Engineering from Greece, National Technical University of Athens. And Joanna, for your information, we do the plus and the minus things of the distance learning at once. So you have 6 minutes time. Okay. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Rakute. To be honest, I'm very happy being here. Addressing this matter. I believe this was the subject of a lot of discussions since COVID appeared and this pandemic. I was thinking, I'm one of the first panelists, and I should not touch responses that are likely to be used by other panelists. So I was thinking, all responses depend heavily on the population of students. So I have taught in populations of 20 students and also of a few hundreds. I will respond with regards to the advantages, specifically for very large student audiences. So one of the major advantages in distance learning settings, when audiences are so large, a few hundreds of students, is that all students, if they wish, they can take the floor. You can engage them and find out their opinions via polls, via the Q&As, via chat. And this is an excellent way. And this is really impossible when you have face-to-face lectures, because how many of them can actually real-time respond orally to your questions? And raising hands and counting hands is not equivalent to electronic polling at all, I must admit. So for me, this is one of the major advantages that you cannot find an equivalent in face-to-face settings. Another advantage of remote education, and I'll try avoiding the ones aforementioned by my colleague earlier on, has to do with moderating for students as well as teachers that have certain difficulties, let's say, in terms of hearing or mobility. Remote education, using the right tools for that, can compensate these type of difficulties that both teachers and students may have. And I'm having feedback from our students that suggest, thank God that we have this pandemic now, because now I can attend all lectures, and otherwise I wouldn't be able to, because I have some mobility difficulties, and it will be impossible to be present in all the courses, in all the lectures. Now, I would not like to go through more positive things regarding remote education, distance learning. I will focus on a couple of not negative challenges that needs to be addressed in the future. Well, it has a lot of advantages and great opportunities, but it's undeniable that there are a lot of weaknesses in remote education. And for me, one of the most important ones is that in cases of exclusive remote education that lasts for a long time, such as this one that we are experiencing in this pandemic, students, some teachers as well, start feeling too comfortable with this setting. This is one of the huge dangers. I see this not only with my students, I see this with my kids. And they're kind of reluctant to switch back to face-to-face education mode. There are several reasons for that, but I think this is not healthy. And I think this is one of the major risks that we have to deal with. And it's a risk not only from an education perspective, but also social perspective. Okay, I got the 1 minute sign. I had some issue to mention with regards to the negatives, that there is no de facto standard that exists around, so that people that are not very familiar with the technologies have to switch from one platform to another, they have difficulties, especially if they're not in the ICT domain, and this is a major issue. And closing, I would like to highlight that in my humble opinion, face-to-face education cannot be replaced by remote education, but can very well be complemented in an excellent manner if there is the right balance between the two. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, and very well thought. The right mixture is the best, and thank you very much for this. Without any further time losing, I would say we move on. After two professor views, if I can put it in these terms, we are now going into the view of an online education coordinator. So the third panelist, Jose Luis Lopez Bastias, is from the Department of Education, Languages, Culture and Arts, and he's an online education coordinator of the Innovation in Digital Education Center. So it's quite a long department name.
Yeah.
And he is from Madrid, Universidad Rey Juan Carlos. And yes, we are very interested in your 2 points. You have 6 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizing committee, the members of this panel, and of course the audience, because I truly believe that this is going to be a really inspiring for all. Well, speaking about the strengths or the advantages, I have to say that the most important one should be the enhancement of the digitalization of the educational process. I'm speaking about Rey Juan Carlos University. It was true that before this pandemic time, we had some degrees which were taught in an online version or in a blended version, but the vast majority of professors didn't know how to impart classes in the distance. So when this time came, we were pushed to learn how to do it. And I think that there is no better way of learning something than by doing it. And that's, I think it's an opportunity. And in this sense, relating that with different strengths, I have to mention that during the time that we had to stay at home and we had to change our daily basis, we had a lot of help. The online section of the university, the Center for Innovation and Educational Department, provide professors with different guides, with different resources, just to, for example, how to work remotely, how to prepare subjects for virtual teaching, how to teach by video conferencing, how to sign documents electronically. And apart from that, there were some professors who were more experienced than others, who were the ones who taught us also how to, for example, prepare a video conference or prepare exams and so on and so forth. And it's interesting that in this context, there were a collaborative space in which everyone could share their experiences and could share the problems that they had to face. And now it has become a bank of good practices. So I like to see it as an opportunity, as a strength. And now I think that professors are less afraid than 2 years ago. And we have a great opportunity to continue advancing, and we have the opportunity of absorb the best of both worlds, the face-to-face education on the one hand, and on the other hand, the distance education. And that should be the advantages. And now I'm going to speak about the key challenges. From a point of view, there are two key challenges. The first one should be the digital gap or the digital divide. During the time that we had to stay at home, although it is true that our university did or made a great effort just to provide the students with computers, for example, that digital gap points out students with low incomes and students with special educational needs. They can face different barriers, and those barriers can limit their educational progress. And on the other hand, I had to mention, as it was mentioned before, that it's really necessary to train teachers, professors, not only in digital competence, but also in strategies and methodological or teaching strategies, because it is true that we can be trained in how to prepare an exam or how to deal with the virtual portal, but in this new context, it is needed a new approach. And related to that, I have to mention also that the educational leadership has to change, and we have now the strength, or we have the threat, and should be, for example, the necessity of engaged students. We are losing face-to-face communication, social interaction, and it is really important to provide the student with regular feedback, with tutoring, with video conferencing, just to try to do things better. And that should be, to sum up, the most important threats. We have to try to commit, or to try to engage our students in a different way. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think learning by doing it is a really important phase during the pandemic. Thanks to you very much. So just one question, because it has popped up here in my view. There is a poll, the question to the organization, the hosts of this session. I have no opportunities to open or to see the results. Would it be possible to open the poll for the listeners? Okay, it has disappeared. I'm not quite sure if the poll has been done.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's visible. So I hope everybody can see it. But just to go for sure, I will also sum it up. So the question was, which are the top 3 challenges for teachers in distance learning? So the 3 top challenges. And if I see it correctly, it was a multiple choice option, and the most votes went to keeping students interested in the course content. So again, we have also here the panelists said the motivation aspect is important, and also here keeping students interested is on number 1. The second one is make students feel included as a member of the class. Yes, so if we have the lack of face-to-face, yes, this becomes important. The third one is the last, I think, authentic, practical and hands-on experience. So where you need really physical objects like technical engineering stuff and so on. If it's missing, then of course this is a major part. And just to go for sure, the least chosen option is reviewing group projects separately from the course online meetings with 7%. And I think this summarizes up good the view of our attendees. So thank you very much. I think in between a little bit interaction, as we have learned during COVID, is important. And now we move forward to 3 student views. So this is also very important to, well, basically our customers. How have they felt during this special time during distance learning? And we start with Jenny Jensdottir. She is an undergraduate student from Human Resources program, and she also the vice president at the Student Union. She's from Sweden, and I hope I pronounce it properly. It's Jönköping University. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I would like to start to say that I'm coming in from the perspective more from being the vice president, because this is a full-time job. I've been working with this throughout the whole pandemic for like 2 years now then. And within that field, we have also worked a lot with other student unions. So I have also the perspective of Sweden students as a whole, and have seen how different universities has worked with this, which I would say has really been interesting, and you really see that it differs a lot. But I would like to start, as you others, with opportunities. I would say that a lot of students say that they really enjoy the content that actually is recorded and sent out. We do have a lot of students that are not so good at listening and writing at the same time, for example. And then when you're being able to actually redo the same things and go listen and so on, it is of great value to many students, I would say. I would also say that there is an opportunity to go to and actually start at universities that you maybe never really thought about before. When we are now in the context where maybe more universities actually create courses or programs that later on will be mainly on a digital setting, then you can actually study within another country, even though you're not there. And we do have very different living costs. I mean, for example, Sweden is a very high cost in comparison to a lot of other countries. And then you can actually be studying here without needing to move when it's actually not possible. And you also see the less of traveling, which is a great flexibility. We talk a lot about lifelong learning in Sweden right now. And we have a lot of parents that are studying, and those groups can sometimes be forgotten within the student environment, like student talks, because they are not within the same setting as what you maybe think about the normal students. And when they don't need to travel, and when they are actually having more flexibility within the courses, that can increase their willingness to actually study. And I think that's a really good thing, and it's a good way to have the work puzzle and the work-life balance when you're studying too. I would also say that the more content that we're creating that is digital makes it easier to actually interact with the students and to get that content. For example, when you're using the polls, then you actually send out the results of them afterwards, so that the students can access them when now it pops up, when the course is over, or when the class is over, and that is a great way to actually like increase the content which you can, the study material. And also I would definitely say that something I don't think that we have brought up right now is the course evaluations. It is much easier within the digital setting, or if you say you actually use the digital tools within the physical classroom, to have ongoingly course evaluations. You just need to have 3 questions pop up at the screen and you see the result right away. You can develop the lectures and the courses in general right now, instead of doing it after the course when you don't really see the results of it themselves. So I would say that those are the main opportunities, or like the good things with the digital learning. And I would definitely say that there has been quite a few negative effects or challenges. And one thing that we see that it's not really mentioned a lot is the settings for the students. The work environment. You're sitting at home, at least in Sweden, you are often having very small rooms. Maybe you're living in 10 to 20 square meters apartments and you're studying in your bed, which is definitely not a good setting for learning. You don't even put on your real clothes, you're still sitting there in your pajamas. And I would definitely say that that is a great challenge, and that's something that the school has to think about. And you also have the aspect of, if you're living in an apartment with other people, well, they are maybe not studying at the same time, or thank you, or you're having kids or neighbors or bad internet connection, which also was a little bit mentioned before with the students' different like the digital gap, you would say. I would also want to emphasize that the informal conversations is some of the most important ones, and especially if you're moving, we want to have an international Europe within this field. You really need to have the social context for the students, which are definitely decreasing if you're having too much on a digital setting. I think I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm taking notes for the summary in the last, and I have to write a lot. Thank you very much for all these good insights and experiences that you share with us. I've seen again that there was a second poll about the challenges of the students. So may I ask the hosts to show the results of this? Again, it would be very interesting. So if you could show us the polls. Ah, yes, here they are. Thank you very much. So again, now we have the student perspective view. So which are the top 3 challenges for students in distance learning? So the number 1 is here, stay focused and motivated to mentally show up for the class. So basically again, focusing and then motivation is yeah, by 85% number 1. Number 2 is collaborating with other students on group coursework. Yes, that's definitely something. This was at our university the same, the need that they have a virtual place where they can share and then work together. It's really, really important. There are lots of tools, but sometimes it's not quite easy to choose the proper one with all the security, privacy, and whatsoever options that are available. And then on 3rd, it's getting personal guidance and feedback. Yes, this is something that might be challenging if the teacher is not providing it properly. Then it's even a more larger gap than in present setting. And the 4th is fitting the course in with fit family, home, and work. And also Jenny has mentioned it. This might be, from the student perspective, a difficult one. Okay, thank you very much. I close this here, and I would say we move on. Again, student view. So here with us, the 5th panelist, Sara Maria Zedlova. She's an undergraduate student. Her focus is Faculty of Architecture and Design. And she is from Bratislava, so Slovak University of Technology. And yeah, so the floor is yours. Please start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to express that I agree with everything what have been said here, and I don't want to repeat the things. So while I was preparing for this panel discussion, a question popped in my head, and it's a really basic question. It's why are we even studying? So what's the point of our years spent at the universities? So I was just thinking about this and how this distance learning is changing our thinking. And I came to what is more important to get a professional education or to get a degree, a good job, or is it more important to become a better human being, to be ready to serve others, to create or discover beauty in this world, even in the pandemic times. And I was fondly remembering the times when we were present at school and we could communicate with our teachers and peers, not only in our lessons or consultation hours, but really naturally when we met at halls and we would chat about not just our profession and our education, but about basic things that are happening in this world and how are they changing what we think and what we create as future architects or designers. And I will say that these things have the light side and the dark side as everything, and it's really connected in one place. And I can't say that we can separate these parts. We can have the good ones and the bad ones together. And if I should focus on the good ones, we were forced to be creative, not just with our work, but with our lifestyles and how we come with solutions to problems and how we are trying to think in new ways, to even rethink our form of education and change our course to be on pulse of this age and to be changing as the world is changing. And with this comes the bad side, the really tiring side, the great pressure which can be thrust upon students and I think teachers as well, and how we can deal with this pressure. And Jenny also mentioned that we have to make sure that we separate our life with our family or with our free time and our work life, our study time. So these things can't be mixed. And we should learn how to make clear boundaries between this, because there's great question about mental health of students and how it's getting worse with the pandemic and this social distancing. So the time management should be great part of learning at universities. So maybe like we learn how to do engineering, or we learn about languages or sciences, we should also learn how to work with our time and how to separate the work stuff and our own personal lives. I know it's connected, but it shouldn't really interfere between each others. And to wrap up this, I would come back to my first question. It's why are we studying, or how distance learning can help us to be good and educated people. And if I may express my opinion, this can teach us to be more open, more flexible, more creative, and also more empathetic to other people with different abilities than ours, and not so self-centered as we experience in terms of climate changes and so other things like this. And to sum up, I think distance learning will be a great part of our lives and our education, but not just only part. We should really know the importance of face-to-face contact, and to again learn how to look someone in the eyes and generally speak to them and communicate between each other. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, very valid point. Again, this face-to-face also for the students, and to learn the time management, and that these do not interfere the studying and working and the personal life. That is still very important at a young age. I'm older one, so maybe I can say it. So we have moved forward. So we are at the last panelist, last but not least, Julius Paul. He's also a student, postgraduate student. His master is political science, and he's from Germany, from Leibniz University Hannover. And yes, please activate your microphone, and the floor is yours, Julius.
Yes, hello from Hanover. I hope you all hear me. I'd like to make 2 points, basically. We've heard a lot of good points, a lot of good arguments for and against distance learning. A lot of very well-made points were said. I'd like to think of distance learning and the whole thing that comes with this, not so much in positive and negative things, but I'd like to think them together, basically. So firstly, I'd like to talk about putting students at the center of learning. That's what is really important to me. And secondly, I'd like to come to green higher education and sustainability. So first of all, Jose Luis and Jenny both mentioned it, the student gap, the digital gap when it comes to distance learning. What is very important that you can keep the same level of studying, of learning that we had when we had face-to-face meetings. So what gets more and more important is that when you, for example, can't go to the library and get your books, get your texts, and get your materials of studying, that you can get those materials online, that you can reach papers and ebooks and your materials online, and then that you can use them in the same way that you would use the library, for example. So then when you're sitting at home, that all this is accessible to you. Secondly, and with that, I'd like to refer to a question in the question and answer section. How can students be more active? And what from my perspective as a student in political science, what I realized is that the discussion, the arguments is online. Online is not the same as offline. So it's much more harder to make your point, to prove your argument right when you're online compared to offline. So I think a lot of effort needs to be made so that bad audio quality or even your camera visibility needs to be improved so that we don't suffer from this bad quality anymore when you compare it to offline or face-to-face meetings. That is what's really important for me. So we need to think about methods to improve that. My second point, green higher education. We heard it from Christina von Haren right at the beginning of the workshop. Sustainability should lay at the heart of all actions. So we always have to keep sustainability in mind when we are working in the consortium, in the U-list that we established now. But what does it mean to keep sustainability at the heart of all actions? First of all, distance learning requires much more effort in energy, in new buildings, when you think of new computer centers, new investments that need to be made. So sustainability should always be thought of when we develop, when we invent those new means to keep up the level of studying. Secondly, software that we use as well. Like currently we are in a Zoom meeting, but on the other hand, Zoom does not publish any information on how green, how sustainable their servers are running actually. So sustainability at the heart of all actions needs to be really thought through at all levels. And when you think of an alliance of universities, a whole different power comes with it. So when you're a student sitting at home, you can't really compare it to 9 universities combining their strength and eventually being able to put pressure on big corporate I don't know, Zoom corporates, like to pressure them into making sustainability their goal as well. So that's what I would highly recommend for the alliance when it comes to the sustainability goal. And eventually, sustainability does not go only for trees or buildings, but it goes for humans as well when it comes to health issues or well-being issues. And what came to my mind is the data privacy issue with Zoom or with Big Blue Button or with these streaming websites in all. So that's something that needs to be thought of, I think. So to sum it up, all up, what's really important for me is the power that goes with this alliance of ULIST to really go forward in distance learning, but also in sustainability and to make a green change, maybe. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We are absolutely on time. So a big thank you for all the panelists. We are really on time here. So in the meantime, I was trying to do and summarize the questions in parallel. And I've also got an email probably with the questions, but what I have seen, thank you very much, Julius, for answering one of the questions here, this about the motivation and interaction. So what would be interesting here, because here in the questions and answers panel, we have also the questions included from the previous session, but I think some of them are maybe relevant here as well. So the question is, how can we make students more active in distance learning? So we have heard a little bit about the student perspective. I would raise this question or pass this question to the teachers. So maybe I would go to Joanna and ask you to answer this one.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting question. It's very tricky. I personally teach in very young students of the first and second year, and it's always challenging, even in face-to-face settings, to engage them. Because if they're not engaged, they get bored and sleepy and they don't get a hint of what you're talking about. So in the previous semester, I tried using slides. I usually do not use slides in young students. I use the whiteboard or blackboard, but this was not very convenient in remote education. So it was rather a failure from my behalf in the last, in the previous year, in the spring semester of 2020. So I decided to buy some digitizer, to be honest. And this substitutes excellently the whiteboard that is in the amphitheaters. And this way I managed to engage a very high percentage of my students, asking questions, what should go next? And a lot of them answering me in the chat privately. I managed to get, for example, 50 answers from the audience, while in face-to-face settings, it would be a couple of students raising hands and taking the floor. And this was, I think this was a personal win this year from my side, and I 100% vote for good digitizers to be used from teachers, especially when they teach large audience and young students. Other means of student engagement are polls to keep them interested. And the Q&As are also a good thing, but I would vote for polls and digitizer substituting the whiteboard users. That's where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like now to answer the question that went to the students, basically focusing on how, if the meeting deadlines during distance learning, are they becoming more challenging due to the extra workload that you already have? So I guess these deadlines are more and more difficult, or because the time flexibility and that you save time by traveling, maybe it has also a little bit eased up the situation. So maybe here a short question, short answer from you, maybe starting with Sarah.
Yes, I think I know partly the answer to this. My school or my faculty is known to be quite hard on students with a lot of deadlines. And as you mentioned, there's time spared because we don't need to commute and transfer from different places. But I hadn't felt this way. I think teachers might thought that we have free time, but the time we had, we needed to recover from long hours of online lectures. And sitting behind the screen, it doesn't look tiring, but it really is, because I felt on myself that when I have a lecture face to face, I can focus on him or her, and I easily understand what they say and easily remember this. But looking at the screen and slides showing, it's not so easy. And I'm going back to the question. Doing exercises or working on projects, these online semesters were harder, and it was really pressing. And I think the face-to-face contact would help us to cooperate on these things, because when we sit alone in our rooms, it's harder to reach out to our peers or other students and maybe ask for help or to do some projects together. It was easier at the university, where we sit together and we chat and we can do this easily. So I think the face-to-face learning would be better in this matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Julius, your view on this point. What do you think from your perspective?
Yes. So personally, I must say I really miss face-to-face classes, and I'm quite lucky that I'm not too much pressured into finishing studying at a certain date or something. So what I did during Corona is I did the bare minimum of what I needed to do, and I really was I'm still looking forward to going back to face-to-face discussions and seminars, because from my point of view, it's quite different in humanities. Making your point, proving your argument is something completely different online from offline. But that's only one thing. The other side is speaking to people about the course afterwards or before the course is very vital for the whole studying process. So you don't have this online going for lunch or going for a drink after the seminar with fellow students, and that's something that really is important to me.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, very valid points here. So maybe the same questions to Jenny, because this covered all students. So from your point of view, as you have mentioned, you have here, you are the vice president of the student union, and you have here maybe a little bit more insights about the majority of students. What do you know in respect to this topic on this question?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely differs a lot. We have seen where professors are transforming a norm, if you have a regular exam in a hall, for example, transforming that into a digital setting where they are at home, and then decreasing the time, for example, because, well, then you can't cheat on it, which definitely puts a lot of stress, and especially on those students that feel that, well, I need my time not to cheat. That is not the problem here. It's to read and actually understand the question and to write and put it on paper. And in those cases, definitely has, increased the stress levels. On the other hand, we have also seen a lot of teachers who have embraced the digital setting and more using the open book kind of exams, where you are given several days to complete the tests, which then makes you more able to focus, to more put on the time, more flexibility in regards to the time settings. If you're a morning person, you do the studies in the morning, and then you're actually free in the evenings, for example. and are giving more time, and then that is making the testing, the exam actually become much better. So we see both of the sides, and I wouldn't really say that I could say any, well, generally this is the more or this is less, because it's also depending on what topics. We have seen that math, for example, has been either it's been a lot of cheating or it's been on campus, honestly, and that is that has then rather become more on campus based, but definitely it's needed to be, the testing of the students' knowledge needs to be adapted to the current situation, and then you cannot just copy it and shorten the time.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a valid key point. Cheating and examination, this was massive also at our university. Of course, the view of teachers and students. And I would raise this question, that it's connected here. In what ways should teachers adopt their examination style, taking into account that the students have more access to educational materials when examined at home? So they have now a vast, how should I say, access to materials. And I would here address this to teachers, and maybe Zbigniew, can you answer it from your perspective?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, we were thinking a lot about it at our faculty, and you know, like I see for this approach, when you give more times to student to do the examination, to do the, let's say, to answer the question, you can make the question harder, you can make it more, let's say, open, but on the other hand, the question is, will the student do it by himself? Yeah, wouldn't be there any let's say cooperation with somebody else? Yeah, that is what we were, let's say, afraid of. So that is big con. We prepared some solutions, like, for example, that during the examination there will be a camera that will see the student, so we know that he's only working on the answers. He's not communicating with anybody else and something like that. But in the end, it's almost as time consuming for the teachers as the oral exam. And of course, if we would like to have courses with several hundred students, so that's impossible to do. So for big courses, of course, we need to have tests, and thanks to the situation in Czech Republic, it was possible to do the exams for small groups of students. So we have a really big number of really small group of students, and we did the examination in person. But we, for example, the midterm tests were usually online. So my approach was that we decrease the number of questions and we make them more open, but we also a little bit decreases the time. So at least elementary things has to be, let's say, known by the student, so he has not enough time to learn anything from the scratch. But it was not enough time to reinvent the solution with other colleagues, let's say. And I think it worked. And in general, the results, like the results were very similar to the results of the midterm exams from previous years. Yeah. So that's my view. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I completely agree here. The amount of students is a key issue when doing these examinations and the possibilities that you can use. So I would raise the same question to you as well, Jose Luis. So maybe your insights at your university towards examinations and the difficulties with it, and those are the opportunities.
Yes, in the case of Rey Juan Carlos University, final exams were presential, face-to-face, and the rest of the semester was online. So from a point of view, what I did was I prepared my subject just to paying special attention to other kind of evaluation different from the final test. My subject, one of the subjects was attention to diversity. And in that subject, we had a great opportunity to debate, a great opportunity to work on different projects and in different cases. And from a point of view, the exam is a part of the evaluation, but it's not the main part. So when we came to the final part of the semester, the exam was like the 20% of the final degree. So in this sense, I think that we now in this context we cannot think the same way as we thought before, and we cannot translate the things that were done during the presential mode or face-to-face education to this year, which has been different. So methodologies should change too in this sense. That's what I really believe.
Yes, thank you much, and I can share your experiences here as well. I see, Joanna, you have raised your hand. Please go on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Virgo. It was very challenging because as I said, I teach in
excuse me to interrupt you, but we hear your voice double, so it's a loop somewhere.
Yeah, is it fixed now? Is it fixed now? I believe it is.
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I teach in very large student populations, and I teach in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. So it is very easy for them, for students to somehow do not act very properly, very appropriately when they're being examined. So it was very challenging for teachers to come up with very personalized, let's say, sets of exam questions. So rather than producing a set of 10 questions, we had to produce a set of 300 questions, randomly selected for each student. And we tried to after some tests we did with our PhD students, to select the right time for them to give, and so that they are answered just in time and they don't have any extra time. The results, I think they justified us because the percentage of success was very similar to the ones in previous years. So I believe we did the right thing, but it was really, really very time consuming for teachers to come up, well, 20 times higher population of questions and very diverging questions. But I hope, well, we did our best, and I believe our students did our best as well. And well, I completely agree with both speakers that addressed this. It's one of the great challenges that we have to face in remote education exams. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you much. I can absolutely relate to that. I'm in the e-learning stuff, and this was a very often raised question. It's how many questions do I need? What if it's leaked, and so on and so on. So it's really a difficult one, and a lot of work. And writing good questions is a tough one. So there is one very interesting question for the audience. It's targeting both students and teachers, and the question is how important is for your role to activate the cameras in online lectures. So I would do it maybe in a sort of interactive way. So if you think it is important, then do this, and you say it's in the middle one, then do like this one, and if you say it's not important, then do like this one. And I would start with students. So Jenny, Sarah, and Julius, what do you think? How important is for students to activate the cameras in online lectures? So please. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So it's important for the students. Thank you. If you move or change to the teachers or the administrative staff, so here Zibek, Jose Luis and Joanna, what do you say? It's difficult to see, Jose. I think, okay, sum up. Okay, I see. Thank you. And maybe if I can also give my vote here, it's also like between this and this. Okay. Thank you very much. We are we have 4 minutes left. Let me just skim through the questions if I have missed something. Okay, here is one question. Has the transition to distance learning had a different impact on the quality of engineering and natural sciences courses or humanities of arts? I think here humanities and arts, this was going to you, Jose Luis, if I can ask you to answer this question from the audience.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Has the transition to distance learning had a different impact on the quality of engineering and natural sciences courses?
Okay, well, in my case, although I'm part of the department which is in charge of humanities and culture, I'm more into the educational science. So, well, for me, it was quite easier. But other colleagues that I have, for them was really difficult to, for example, those who were to work in architecture and arts, like, for example, doing sculptures and things like that. For them, in subjects or in degrees which are more practical, it's a problem that they had. And in this case, the university provide professors with different structures, but paying special attention to the COVID measures. And the experience was positive in that sense. But for them were really difficult to adapt that part to an online or on a distance basis.
Yeah, thank you very much. And one thing that I maybe add here from my point of view. So basically, at my university, we have also teachers who are external teachers who are just here for hold the lectures for 1-2 hours, and for them to completely change to the new ways, even do not really knowing the university perfectly and all the service units and all the possibilities, it was sometimes difficult to get the answer from. So get the information from each units that are responsible, for example, for the web conferencing systems or for the e-learning platforms, that they get answers there. So it was not really connected to the topics they are teaching, but general access to the guidelines and options. Okay, yes, I see the information. That we are at the end of the session. Oh, perfect. It's already time for the break, and I think we should take the break now. It was very intense, but lots of insights, and I have now difficulty to sum it up, all these good points, and to summarize it. And I've got the information that we have to move the panelists and the moderators to the different webinar rooms. So, okay, that's just information for us. So thank you very much for all the panelists here, for all the great inputs and insights. Thank you very much. And also for the listeners, all for the questions and the answerings. And yeah, it was a really vivid discussion and it was great. Thank you very much. And now let's have a little break. Thank you.
Gegerli?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, of course, I can hear you perfectly well. Thanks for this exceptionally, how can I say, constructive moderation. And I enjoyed a lot. I don't know if you notice, we've sent you a number of emails. And,
yes, thank you very much. I will now meet with Jenny. She has also to sum up her part from the student
definitely.
Point. So we moved to a different room, but thank you very much. I think I have a good opportunity here. So
excellent. And we have provided you with some PowerPoints, templates. So if you want, you can wrap up your key points there. Whatever is convenient for you. It's entirely up to you.
Thank you very much. I think I have 5 minutes, so I don't bother showing screens. I will talk lively to the audience.
See you.
Thank you and see you.
Bye. Hello, everybody. I think let's wait for 1 minute for all the panelists to return. Hello, still there is an echo. Allow me to get in to check out and check in, although now I think it's okay. Okay, thank you very much. I think we have reached the final session of this distant learning workshop. In all the panels, they were extremely how can I say, constructive, with a great interaction of the audience. What I would like to say and to update you, if we would like to describe this workshop in numbers, we had approximately 300 attendees who attended the workshop in its whole duration. 140 participants participated in the different pollings that appeared at different stages of this workshop, and we had 58 questions posed by the attendees of the audience. So these KPIs indicate that one of the objectives of this distance learning workshop to have all the attendees interact in a way it was achieved. At that section, I would like to invite the moderators of the 3 different panels to present to us the key points discussed and summarized in every and each of the 3 panels. I would like to start with Professor Julia Gillen from the Leibniz University of Hannover, who was the moderator of panel number 1. Julia, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Katerina. We had a very, very constructive and very, very good session. And we had some aspects we came again over and over. But first, I want to give you a short conclusion. One of the good effect we have is the internationalization of teaching. So it's very easy to engage lecturers from abroad and to bring guest lecturers in our universities, even if they are not in our countries and our cities. So we have a very good opportunity to collaborate with partner universities all over the world and in Europe. So that was one of the points we heard. One of the pros was also that we have to have the opportunity, or we use the opportunity to record the lectures for our students, and to record the lectures even for other lecturers, and to collaborate lecture by lecture together. So that was one of the pros. And one of the challenges we discussed in sometimes is to have the exams and to the assessments in the online models. We don't have the best ways already, So perhaps we have to look for more oral exams, more project-orientated exams, and to come to continual assessment, and not to have one summary assessment. So and the students, they said very clear that the flexibility in time and place was one of the best effects of the remote modus, but one of the biggest challenge was the lack of interaction, and even the social interaction they didn't had in the remote modus. So in summary, you can say that the new discourse on teaching and studying we have in the universities for a long time give us a great opportunity for improvement of teaching and student experience. And that was something we saw in all of the universities who take part in the discussion. Okay, so I stop here, and perhaps the others will continue.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you very much indeed. I would like now to invite Professor Andreas from the Brno University to summarize the discussions held in panel number 2. Andre, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will also use my screen. I put there some points, some significant points that outcomes from our discussion. So the first is about the opportunities, and the opinion of the speakers were that it definitely boosts some collaboration and also the speed of innovations. So a lot of things that weren't taken, waited for some impulse to deal with were now possible and even required. So the collaboration, the intensive collaboration between the institutions, and also boosting some kind of innovations in terms of distance learning, and also using more online platforms for communicating, doing online meetings, etc., was something that this distance learning period brings us advantage. Also, especially teachers expressed that they were forced to familiarize themselves to new tools which may prove them useful. So they started to use different tools available on the market and realized that they can also boost some productivity. And the necessary digitalization removed some paperwork. So not everything had to be printed on the paper, and it was appeared in this distance learning period where it was not possible to print the paper, sign it, and so on. Also, more activities that were traditionally did in person were now as online activities, especially exams. So exams were traditionally considered as a thing that you need to come to the university, you are controlled by some supervisor, and you need to do exam in person. Now it was possible to do online exams, of course, in a different shape. There were also some demand for new features of distance learning tools because more people start using them. And I guess that what was the most considered or most discussed point or opinion, that it increased flexibility, because now you don't need to, or in this period, you don't have to move physically to some other location, which also takes some time. So you are more flexible. If you have online lectures, you can watch them from your home or even when you travel. So the flexibility was something that was very appreciated during this period. And with the flexibility, there was also opinion that it is possible to do more work and also to even take more classes than before, which is true, but as you will see on the next slide, this flexibility and doing more has also some drawbacks. And finally, what was very appreciated by students especially was that availability of recorded lectures. So I thought that students would appreciate some maybe other things like some more interesting and more advanced tool for delivering the content, but it appears that have access to recorded lecture to be able to replay it again in order to understand more the specific things in this lecture is something that is very appreciated by students. So that was some advantages, and this is the list of the possible risks and challenges. So definitely the social dimension, including the feeling of isolation, is the biggest problem, not only for the students, but of course for the entire society. Also, there was some opinion that even there's some innovation, so something had to be done and move and innovate, then sometimes you may feel that you lose control over this innovation and over the evolution of the environment, because you cannot see the environment, you cannot touch, you cannot be part of this environment because it's kind of virtual environment. And sometimes you may feel that this virtual environment is somehow moving from you away, and you are losing the control. Also, it includes that the entire system and entire education and distance learning at this time was less structured, and it was kind of difficult to orient. There were complications in interaction between teacher and student. Some teachers may lack necessary pedagogical skills in order to deliver the lectures online. And there may, of course, be some technological problems. On the other side, teachers may have problem with monitoring student progress to prepare some suitable tests in order to evaluate them and the things related to the students' assessment. And also the biggest problem that both teachers and students agree on was the lack of hands-on exercises or hands-on labs. So for some areas of education, or for most of them, it is necessary to also have some practical experience in a labs. So without the labs, the education was quite difficult. And students also complained that there are a lot of tools that they had to use because it usually depends on the choice of the teacher. So some of them use like Microsoft Teams, Google, or some other tools. So if you as a student need to learn all of these tools, sometimes it may be quite difficult. And also sitting and doing all lectures online are quite complicated for students to stay focused. And as I said, the one advantage of this distance learning period was increased flexibility. It is at the same time as the disadvantage or some drawback of this, because if you have too much flexibility, it may be difficult to, let's say, set deadlines or to organize your time in order to complete all things you want to do. So the flexibility is in both categories. So this is what I recorded from the discussion, and I would pass my screen to some other moderator.
Thank you very much, Andre, for this very structured summary and wrap up that really helps us to identify all the key points discussed by both academics and students. And I would like now to invite the moderator of the third panel, Dr. Rakute from the Technical University of Vienna, to present to all of us the key points discussed in panel number 3. Legally, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I start with summarizing up, just one note, Jenny, she will talk after me. She will focus on the students group. She was also in the third panel, and we have had a short Zoom session in between to, not to talk the same, that we split up our summaries. So let's start with the teachers or administrative staff points. So I would like to start with the opportunities, strengths, and the positive ones. So basically, if you have, for example, large number of students, the fast response that you get as a teacher, if you apply it correctly, this is really, really good. You have real-time response. A lot of students, whether via polls or the chat comments. If you activate the students properly, you can get really fast, really good feedback. Also, the access, for example, for students, for guests is easier. So, for example, getting students from other countries included in your courses, for example, is much better. So mobility advantages are there as well. Also, accessibility is one. If you are, for example, it's not easy for you to travel, then here again you have a large benefit. And also you can take more classes, because changing between classes, as you don't need to walk between, for example, lecture halls. You can just click 3 times and you have a new Zoom session with a different course. So it's also a benefit. And one of the panelists said that it's really interesting outcome that, for example, there are some professors who are now, after this transition, are less afraid of technology, and now the digitalization boost is also so better, so they won't go back, and we'll probably have a blended scenario where both worlds, the real world and the virtual world, benefit from each other. Yeah, and basically now I would like to switch to the difficulties, the challenges that we have discussed. It was an intense discussion with a lot of questions, and thank you very much for all the people and panelists and attendees. It was really, really good. The digital gap, of course, is one key issue. It was a key issue and is still remaining one. So those having less competencies in handling e-learning tools and digital tools, yeah, and it's more clearly now. It's simply one big point here. Also, basically, those who are maybe having special needs or are low income or have to deal with, for example, less infrastructure in terms of bandwidth or less room, less physical possibilities, then the new world is completely, the new normal is completely difficult. Also, keep up with work-life balance. If your office is your living room as well, I think I see a lot of head nodding. Yeah, it is a difficult thing. So sometimes the changing of rooms, going to the university, is really relieving. And one point that was a huge issue at our university as well, the examination, in terms of cheating, privacy, security aspects. It's huge, and it was really good to hear that also other universities have struggled a little bit but found some solutions that might work. Maybe we have to develop a little bit new approaches, but this is really one that it's not solved 100%. We have to work on that. And as others summarized before, the face-to-face collaboration and communication is really good, and in lots of teaching scenarios, it's still the best. In Zoom, speaking parallelly, simultaneously is not possible, and in other settings, it is possible. And this was one point. And the last thing with which I want to close is we are not allowed to forget that 1 hour online teaching for students and also for teachers is really demanding, and sometimes more demanding than in a classroom or in a physical setting. Yes, that was from my part.
Thank you very much, Gregory. And we would like to invite now Jenny from the university, allow me to pronounce properly, from the University of Jönköping, to provide to us the view of the students, given her role as well as a vice president of the students of her university. So Jenny, we would like very much to have the perspective of students clearly stated by you.
Yes, I will give you the correct answer then. We would, from the discussions that we have had, to start with what's been good, what's the benefits. It's one of them is definitely the accessibility of all the different documents. And as we said before, the recorded lectures, they are of great value for the students. And in that sense, you have been a little bit forced to use more of the digital library, which then you realize how much bigger it actually is and how much more material that is accessible. we were also talking a little bit about the question, why are we studying? And to always bring that question back to ourselves. Oh, back to ourselves when we are in the school. And a little bit of a conclusion of that is what we hope is that become a better person, and to actually use what we're learning to create a better world, and to not forget about that when we are in this digital setting. Now you're making some sound. I'm sorry, Katarina. Thank you. No problem. And then, of course, we have the digital tools that can be used both on a campus and when you're in the digital learning setting, where you can do more of the course evaluations ongoingly. You can just pop up these polls and get the feedback more frequently. It doesn't have to be a hard way, and you can actually use the feedback within the course ongoingly. Then when we come to the more challenges, of course, all these social parts and the informal conversations are very important for the students, and both student to student and student to teacher. Those kind of conversation has unfortunately disappeared, and is very valuable for the learning experience, for the discussions after the class, when you're meeting up and just working on your arguments for your sake, or working on your learnings by listening to others. So that is something that definitely is lacking when we are in these settings, and you have the facial expressions and the sound and the video does affect it a lot. So those are some great challenges to work with. And then we also come in with the aspect of your financial situation, if you actually can afford to buy the greatest computer, to actually have the right tools for it. And that brings us into the work environment in general. You said when when your living room is your office, well, for most students, it's your bedroom. And it's your bed, and that work environment is definitely not to benefit the studies for the students, and that is something that really needs to be considered when we are locking down the campuses and when we are not even able to do the studies in a proper seating. And then you always also have the student accommodations. Maybe you're sharing your room with others, or you're sharing your apartment with others. You have your kids if you're a parent. Those settings are extremely hard, and it's also time consuming to work with these work-life balance. And then it's also time management within that, to wiggle all these balls, or how to say. And it's also something that definitely affects the students, is that once you get inactive, when you're not active within your learning, it's harder to actually interact more. And that we have heard from teachers that they are having a struggle to make the students active. Well, once you get more inactive, it is harder to actually get there again. And we also wanted to lift the environmental aspect of this, both on the tools that we're using, but then also to wrap this up with the opportunities that we as universities, and we as universities with collaboration, that we can actually make a great impact. We can push both towards companies and towards our government to actually make a greater impact on the positive sides of the environmental. So that's something that also comes with this, and especially when we're collaborating like this. I hope that I got our different aspects of this. So I will leave it back to you, Katarina.
Jenny, thank you very, very much, because really all the issues you summarized were issues discussed in all the panels, more or less. And one of the issues all of you, the students, panelists, raised was the lack of boundaries between private and work, and which I thought it was a problem that we professionals and teachers have, because really there is no boundary any longer. And it seems that applies to the students as well. And I found this exceptionally interesting. Thank you very much, Jenny, really, for all this. And I would like to check, because we have a number of polls that went on, most possibly you've noticed it during the whole duration of the workshop. Questions were popping up and down. As I said, more than 150 people provided their views in these pollings. So I would like to ask my colleagues here at NTUA if we are ready to present the summary of these polls, because then we would like to invite Professor Monica Bakosova to summarize the next steps. But before Monica starts, thank you very much, Jenny, I would like to ask whether we are going to present the polling's results or we can just upload it into the website. Give me 1 second to see if we're going to have any results. Thank you very much. And something else I'd like to remind to everybody is attendees that are interested in acquiring a certificate of attendance, please state so at the website. So I don't see. Let me wait. Let's give another second to a technical. Okay, I see that there is a delay, so I would like to invite Professor Monica Bakosova from the Technology University of Bratislava to give us her views and regarding the next steps regarding distance learning. And Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katerina, and thank you also for the opportunity to formulate next steps. I will try to share my screen. I hope can you see my screen, please?
Yes, Monica, yes. We can see very well.
I tried to formulate the next steps in distance learning based on the keynote lecture and also the discussion in the panel 1. So I think that the main message of this workshop on distance learning that it is necessary to develop and to use distance learning also in the future. And it is necessary also to reinvent face-to-face learning to greater value. And now to individual steps. The first step for the future is to create strategy and strategic plan for distance learning at the universities, because during the pandemic situation, we started distance learning without any strategy. Yes, then it is necessary also to choose proper platforms and learning management systems for distance learning, not only in the frame of the university, but also for the cooperation between universities, maybe in our alliance of universities. Then it is also necessary to create effective online or blended courses, again, at individual universities in collaboration with universities, because we can share our knowledge and experiences, and also for collaboration between universities, because we can share the prepared online courses. And the effective online and blended courses are and will be also very important for a realization of mobilities. So to the next steps, we can add also creating attractive videos for synchronous or asynchronous teaching. And what is important for the future to bring in distance learning experts and guest speakers from not only academia and other universities, but also from science and industry. And it is the good feature of distance learning that it is very simple to bring these experts into teaching and learning. Then the other step is to choose proper tools for developing practical skills. So it is recommended to create more remote laboratories, to use virtual reality, Internet of Things, digital twins, and other advanced information and communication technology, because it is very hard to develop practical skills using distance learning. And then it is also necessary to choose and use proper tools for attracting attention of students during online teaching, because it is not so easy to attract attention of students, for example, during the lecture taking 1 or more hours. And again, it is also necessary to choose and use proper tools for exams. For example, it is necessary to choose a proper electronic software for examining, proctoring software, or to use other form of exams, as for example, projects, etc. And it is also important in the future to develop systematically competencies of teachers, such as technology skills, software skill, digital skills, pedagogical competencies, open-mindedness, etc. Up to now, it was more randomly than systematically developed. And it is also important to increase support from the universities for teachers as well as students. And it is technical support, software support, instruction videos, software tutorials, pedagogical training. Thank you very much. It is everything for me, and the screen is again yours, Katerina.
Monica, really, we would like to thank you very much, because you and all the moderators and the representative of the students managed in a very, very short period of time, really to summarize and wrap up what it was discussed during the last 3 hours. Before we close, I would like, in agreement to everything you said, or all of you, to give you the most popular answer in the pollings that ran during this workshop. 1 question for the teachers and 1 question for the students. When the teachers were requested which are the top 3 challenges for teachers in distance learning, the most popular answer by 80% was keeping students interested in the course content. And me as a teacher, I would absolutely agree that this is the greatest challenge. The second most popular was make students feel included as a member of the class. In harmony with the response of the teachers, the students responded by 91% that staying focused and motivated to mentally show up for class was the key challenge for them. The second and third, collaborating with other students on group coursework and fitting the course in with family home work responsibilities. So it seems that there is an overall agreement towards the most important opportunities and challenges on the same time. And all the results, I think we discussed during this workshop today, all of them pinpoint of how important it is to organize these university alliances. And everybody mentioned, both teachers and students, how much they enjoy this flexibility, this ability to work together with colleagues from other countries, from other campuses. And students mentioned that regarding how easier it is now, of course, always underlying the importance of face-to-face cooperation. Having said that, I think that we reached the conclusion of this workshop. I think that the objectives of this workshop were achieved to the highest possible degree. I would like to invite the Rector of NTUA to close the event and ask all of you to stay with your cameras open, all the panelists, all the moderators, and all the speakers, so we can take a group picture for this event, which was the first, if you want, organized event of our University Alliance, and we hope it's going to pave the way. Thank you very much. Professor Muduvis, I would like to invite you.
Thank you for your participation, all of you, especially the students, and for sharing thoughts, concerns, and experience. Some of them very subtle, Jenny, and for your contribution in making the new normal in distance learning less of a shadow and more of a reality. We at NTUA tried our best, and we are already happy with the outcome of this workshop. I'm optimistic that time is coming that distance learning will not be a necessity but a choice, and the new normal will be a much better normal. Until then, let's get over with vaccination, fix our summer vacation plans, and be prepared, but certainly not fully relaxed, for the next academic year. Dear Alliance members, let's plan ahead in accordance to our motto, European Universities Linking Society and Technology. Remote teaching and interaction is at the heart of university alliances. Public events like today's event, although demanding, certainly help a lot to this direction. And as a matter of fact, such virtual events might remain a preferred choice in the new normal. Goodbye from NTUA. Greece is already in a summer mood and very inviting for that purpose. Stay safe, stay healthy, be connected, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, everybody. All of the colleagues from all the North, South, East, and Western of European Union. Thank you very, very much. It seems that nobody wants to leave this workshop.
All right, here it is.
Thank you very much, especially the students.
You did say something about a picture, I think.
Yes, yes. I think that there is a picture being taken as we speak.
Already, yep.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you, Katerina, for chairing. The organization.
Thank you, and thank the whole of NTUA team, especially all the technical team coordinated by Professor Ioanna Roussaki. We really thank you very much, all of you. Have a nice afternoon.
The same to you. Bye.